Now, last week, Friday on this program, you traveled with me here, where we had the news that the planned swearing in of Peter Murcutt Bunting to the position of senator did not take place because there was no vacancy. There was no vacancy because as at the time when the formalities were to be done at King's House, it was recognized that a writ was already issued in the name of Norman Washington Horne, and there had been no communication from Mr. Horne to the Governor General to indicate that he would not be taking up that position. And so we've had a 1 week stay of the installation of Peter Bunting as the 8th opposition senator. A number of developments have taken place since, and since they are of recent vintage and you have been here with me, you should know all of the matters coming in between, so I won't fill in the details, but I will go straight to my guest, Norman Washington Horne. Mr. Horne?
Shield.
Welcome to the hotline.
Thank you for welcoming me.
Well, I've had a release a moment.
And I do expect to have a very welcoming experience.
Well, that depends on you.
Or you.
Well, let
or
us see.
both of us.
I'm not in the habit of being unnecessarily unkind, so I do hope it will be pleasant.
I will look forward to your managed treatment.
Mannings. In the last hour or so, I had a release from you in which you have finally indicated, I had a release from you in which you have finally indicated that you advise the Governor General that you will not be accepting the appointment to sit as opposition senator, and you requested, I'm getting a feedback on your line, Mr. Horne. If you could clear it up for me, I'd be grateful.
I will try.
Right. I think if you have me on a speaker, then you could take me off for the moment. And that you have requested that the necessary steps be initiated to rescind the appointment. Is that a correct press release coming from your office?
That is a correct press release.
When did you so advise the Governor General?
My letter was written yesterday. It was delivered to the Governor General's office. Timely.
Delivered when?
It was delivered today to the Governor General's office.
Why was it only just delivered after your promise in an October 10 letter to deliver it by the 6th of November 2020?
Emily, that's an interesting place to start. But I guess the matter goes back before that. It goes back to the 14th of September, when the then minister, the then opposition leader rather, advised me to prepare myself for the appointment of senator. And by the way, you called me yesterday a Jewish money lender. I suppose that you took the Shylock quote from Shakespeare, The Merchant of Venice. There's nothing Jewish about me, Emily. Absolutely nothing.
I am impressed with your knowledge of Shakespeare.
I
am impressed with your knowledge of Shakespeare. I did refer to you as Shylock, but not so much as the Jewish money lender, but that your actions now of seeming to demand your pound of flesh, which is 10 million, is akin to Shylock. Not so much that you're Jewish.
Well, I'm glad you're making that point, because I want to make clear that every bone and every fiber in me is African. Also, you mentioned the matter of NID yesterday, and just for correctness, currently in the Senate there are 13 members of the government, and there are 7 members of the opposition. That's a total of And in order for a bill to be passed that requires absolute majority, it will require at least 14 persons, at least 14, or at least 2/3 rather, of the members of the House voting to have that bill passed. And 13 and 7 is 20. Mm-hmm. And 2/3 of 20 is 13 and a third, which means that the government cannot and will not be able to achieve that 2/3 majority despite only 7 members in the House. Mm-hmm. Right? I just wanted to make that clear.
No, I think your math is correct, and I'm not going to argue with you on that point. So I appreciate that math. Yeah?
But the listeners also need to know. It's important.
Yes, and you have clarified it, and I take it. Can you step back to the 14th of September for me?
So
you said, hold on a second.
A few days before September 14th,
yes,
the then leader of the opposition, Dr. Peter Phillips, advised that I should prepare myself for the appointment of senator.
What did you understand that to mean?
Prepare means that you are qualified to take the seat and ready to take the seat.
Did you give him any assurances that you would be qualified and ready to take the seat?
I gave him an assurance that I will prepare myself to take the seat. I did.
You gave him that assurance?
Yes, I did.
And did you take steps to...
And so I have taken steps, which the step really that is required in this instance is to renounce my United States citizenship.
Yes.
That is really the step that is required. But, as I said to you, it's a lengthy process, and it was further complicated by COVID protocols.
Are you sure, Mr. Horne, that the leader of the opposition then informed you that he was prepared to nominate you to the Senate so long as you prepared yourself by doing these acts of renunciation? He would have appointed you to the Senate. Are you absolutely sure about that discussion?
I am sure that the leader of the opposition, the then leader, advised me clearly, without any ambiguity, to prepare myself for the appointment.
But is it the first time that you were going to attempt to renounce your citizenship?
I'm sorry, I missed that question.
This time in 2020, September, when you gave the assurance to Dr. Phillips, it wasn't the first time you were going to make an attempt to renounce your U.S. citizenship?
My attempt to renounce my U.S. citizenship was made just before the 14th.
No, but was there another time in, say, 2007, when you also commenced a process then and did not follow through on it?
But that's not irrelevant.
I'll tell you the relevance of it, so I'm just asking you to clarify. Was there a time previously when you did that?
Again, I have contemplated on more than one occasion renouncing my U.S. citizenship. And on the 3rd of October this year, I've decided finally that I will not renounce the citizenship.
3rd of October 2020.
2020.
All right, before we get on to that, I really want to hear it, but I just want to understand. Did you attempt to renounce? You said you contemplated, but did you try the process at any point in time before?
Emily, I have tried before.
Right, and did you understand upon your previous trial or trials that it is a lengthy process?
I am aware, I wasn't aware that COVID-19 would have extended the process but I am now, clearly.
So, yes.
But here's the issue, Emily, and maybe this is something you would want to look at probably closer. It is my opinion that many persons who are holders or who were holders of U.S. citizenship have made clear their intention to renounce their citizenship. And while sitting in the Parliament of Jamaica, they await their renouncement document. Because this process goes from Jamaica to Washington and back to Jamaica. So maybe, and I have also pointed to you that I do believe that in 2012, we had a similar situation in the Senate, where a person was appointed to the Senate, renounced, go through the process of renunciation while sitting in the Senate.
And you make that point to say what exactly? That we are to use...
I made a point to say that I commenced the process, which is one, and I was waiting for the completion of it to take my seat in the Senate.
So you're making the point, Mr. Horne, to ask me and the listeners to accept an illegality as a justification for your action.
I am making the point to say to you that I am confident that this precedent exists. And I'm making a point to say to you further that I'm of the opinion, and not just the fact, I'm of the opinion that currently in our parliament, there are U.S. citizens who are going through the process of renouncing.
Yes, but what you're using it to do is to justify your current status. When we're dealing with those people, then we will ask them the relevant question. But why are you seeking to use their unconstitutional conduct of not having their certificate of renunciation and sitting in the House as a basis to explain away your unconstitutional conduct as you intended it in October? Why?
You said that I was sitting in the House, Evelyn?
No, you intended to sit, having started the process.
No, I intended to sit once my U.S. citizenship matter has been resolved.
No, that's not what I'm understanding. I'm hearing you say that you would sit, having started the process, and based on what has happened previously, you could continue to sit and the process would complete itself and you would finally complete it as a second sitting.
Emily, I said that I do believe that there are persons in the Jamaican Parliament who have started their process of renunciation and are waiting for the completion. In that case, they're sitting as U.S. citizens or foreign or under foreign power, adherence to foreign power. The point that I was making to you is that I started the process. I did. I did not take a seat in the Senate of Jamaica. And on October 3rd, I decided not to continue the process of renunciation.
All right.
And I'll be happy to tell you why.
But I'm going to come to that.
I decided not to.
I'm going to come to that, Mr. Horne. Yeah. What I want to ask you...
I don't want you to say that I have taken my seat.
No.
I did not take a seat in the Senate.
No, that's not what I meant. But let me ask you this. Having commenced the process before, even without COVID being there, is it a process that would take, from your understanding, 2 weeks to be completed?
Emily, I think under normal circumstances, this process could take a minimum of maybe 2 to 3 weeks, or maybe a maximum, in some cases, of 6 months.
Right.
It all depends.
Can you remind me the date that the writ was actually issued by the Governor General?
I think the writ was issued on the 14th. Well, I'm not sure. I cannot confirm that. I've not seen the writ, by the way. But what I can tell you is that the announcement for my appointment, I think, was on the 14th of September.
So you're telling me the very said day, the leader of the opposition said to you to prepare yourself for appointment was the same date of the announcement, and you knew that at least at that time the renunciation process could take a minimum of 2 to 3 weeks and a maximum of 6 months, but you still thought You could have done what was necessary to properly take up the seat in the Senate, with you having not renounced your citizenship as at the 14th of September. How was that going to work?
Emily, my application to renounce the citizenship is one thing. Taking the seat in the Senate is a different matter. In conforming with the Constitution, I had anticipated that I would have had my renunciation documents in my hand walking into the Parliament to take my seat.
But you do know, Mr. Horne.
Now,
you do know that the appropriate date for the purposes of the Constitution, you should know, it is not the date of you walking in the Senate, but it is the date of the issue of the writ. Don't you know that?
As I mentioned to you, that I've not seen the writ, and I certainly don't know what date the writ was issued. But what I do know for a fact is that my intention were to renounce and to take up my seat in the Parliament. And what I'm advising you, that on the 3rd of October, that my position changed.
When did you commence the process of renunciation?
My position changed, Emily, on the 3rd of October.
When did you commence the process of renunciation?
And my position, pardon me?
When did you commence the process of renunciation after Dr. Phillips told you to prepare yourself?
It would have been the day after.
About the 15th?
I said to you before that a few days before the 14th, Dr. Phillips advised me to prepare myself.
Okay, so in that week you commenced the process,
yeah.
And you aborted the intention on the 3rd of October.
On the 3rd.
Okay.
Yeah.
So nobody asked you anything in Jamaica on the 10th of October, but we got a press release from you in which you then said, based on some fundamental conviction that you had, you would be writing to the Governor General to resign from the Senate. And am I correct in saying that at that time when you gave that indication, you had already decided that 1 week before you had stopped the renunciation process?
On the 3rd, yeah. I decided not to continue, correct.
So what am I to read into this statement now then, Mr. Horne, if it's not as I called it yesterday, grand sophistry? What am I to read into it? This is no point of principle that you were issuing this statement on the 10th of October on. You clearly were ineligible. You knew you were.
An aircraft has to take off and land. And there are times in between that those activities occurred. So let's just say that I was on the runway, and after I landed, I issued my statement. The fact of the matter is that I decided not to pursue the renunciation on the 3rd. And therefore, in order to bring it close to the matter, it was important to issue the statement to advise the Jamaican public that I will not be taking up the position. And as I said in my release today, that I was remiss in not sending a letter to the Governor General.
No, but your statement did a little bit more than that, Mr. Horne. The 10th of October, you made us believe that the reason you had come to the position of not taking up the seat was because the leader should be free to exercise his or her constitutional right in executing the mandate as the leader of the opposition.
And that's correct. And that position has not changed.
But that's not the reason why you didn't take up the Senate position.
Let's be very clear. If you take the assumption that I had renounced my U.S. citizenship, and you take the assumption that I was sitting in the Senate, right? On the appointment of a new leader, and this is not Mark Golden specific, but on the appointment of any new leader, I would have tendered my resignation.
Right, but right? I appreciate that.
That's my position.
No, I appreciate that, right? Mr. Horne.
Although there's no provision in law, it's not mandatory, but that's my own personal conviction. party and the senators, the party leadership and the senators must work in tandem, hand in hand, in order to advance the party's mandate.
Yes, but the point I wish to make and to ask you this question, there's no need to assume that you had renounced, because as of the date of writing the press release, you knew that you were not intending to renounce at all. So the basis on which you were to issue the statement, in fact, why do you issue a statement? Why didn't you just then write to the Governor General to say, I will not take up the appointment? And if you were going to issue a statement at all, was to tell the people that you're not eligible to sit in the Senate?
Emily?
Yes.
I decided on the 3rd not to pursue the renouncement of my citizenship. And let me be very clear that although I have contemplated it in the past more than once, I will for life now retain my U.S. citizenship. I don't believe today that I would make the same contemplation again. And I don't have to tell you that 99% of Jamaica would wish to have either a visa, a permanent resident, or a citizen of the United States of America. So let me consider myself among the 99%, the 1% who has. And I'm grateful for that.
Nobody's begrudging you. Nobody's begrudging you.
Now that point has been made. There is no doubt, because it was made public, that I contemplated the possibility of running for leadership of the People's National Party. That was contemplated. It was contemplated somewhere about the 26th of September. After recognizing that it was an impossible feat, it was just not possible. And I'm not going to dwell into the party internal affairs. And as it is commonly said, to take the party laundry to the public. But it was not possible. You could almost predetermine that Mr. Mark Golden would have been the next leader of the People's National Party based on the information that was available to me. And I speak to some which was in fact made public, such as the 400 groups with more than 400 delegates that were formed earlier this year to his benefit. So therefore, there wasn't any path to victory. And I decided that because there was no path to victory, that I would not participate in it.
That's exactly how I understood it. Hold on, Mr. Horne. Hold on. Let me take a break. I'd love to hear you. Dr. Peter Phillips, we have been trying to reach you for the last number of days. We definitely do need to talk with you, Dr. Peter Phillips, former leader of Her Majesty's loyal opposition. This is the hotline. When we come back, more with Norman Washington Horne. Thank you, listeners. We're back with you on the hotline, talking with Norman Horne. Massive development this morning after 8 days of delaying because Peter Bunting couldn't be sworn in as a senator, as Mark Golding said would happen. We've had word early this morning that Norman Horne has sent his letter to the Governor General, and from a press release which he said he did send, he has indicated he will not be taking up the seat. But more importantly, Mr. Horne has admitted to us that he, based on his current status, he's not eligible to sit in the Senate because he remains a citizen of the United States. He's contemplated renouncing his citizenship a few times in the past, but he's now absolutely sure that he will not have to contemplate this position again. He has told us that sometime a couple days before the 14th of September 2020, then opposition leader told him to prepare himself for the appointment of senator. He understood the preparation to mean that he was to make himself qualified to take the seat, and he gave Dr. Phillips the assurance that he would renounce his U.S. citizenship. The public were told on the 16th of September of the slate of senators. Norman Horne's name being on it. Renunciation would have been a physical, legal impossibility within 2 or 3 days of that discussion with Norman Horne. And he's telling us now that sometime around the 26th of September, he formed the view, he contemplated being leader of the party. It was clear to him that that was sort of impossible sometime after that. And by the 3rd of October 2020, he decided that he would not complete the process of renunciation. Have I summed that up correctly, Mr. Horne?
Very well, Emily. Very well.
Right. So
moving along.
Before you move along, I'm really sorry to detain you, but I'm still not satisfied. And if it is that you are, then I have to move on. But
yeah.
If I go back to the statement of the 10th of October, one, why did you issue the statement? And two, having issued the statement, can you understand why I say that you misled the people of Jamaica into believing that you were eligible on the 10th of October, one, and two, being eligible, you thought it the principal position not to take up the seat and to give the new leader of the opposition the chance to appoint a senator?
Emily, I have made clear to you, and I have said to you before and during this conversation, that if you take the assumption that I had cleared the citizenship issue, and I was in fact sitting in the parliament as a senator, and a new leader or a leadership change in the party, that I would resign, giving the new leader the opportunity, or what is described as a free hand, to name his senators. And I've also mentioned the reasons why I would do that.
Right.
But I would have you know that on October 5th, I sought to meet with the leaders. I met with Mr. Golden, and I have also met with Ms. Hannah. I don't believe that there's a need for me to discuss the meeting of Ms. Hannah, but I'd like to advise you that Mr. Golden was very clear when he said to me that he would prefer if I don't resign. Instead, what his preference would be is that I offer my resignation and to allow the new leader to accept it or decline. Now, I must tell you that since the indication, and it was made particularly among party circles, that I intend to resign this position as senator, that I came under a lot of pressure, particularly from the rights group, not to resign out of the possibility that Dr. Peterson may name a replacement senator ahead of the election. But to me, and which you will come to realize, that my decisions are not easily influenced. And therefore, I held steadfast that my position to give the the new leader a free hand remained intact. As a result, I was moved to issue a press release to that effect. And as I said to you before, and that in my apology to the Jamaican people, I was remiss by not issuing the letter of resignation to the Governor General on the 10th, when I should have.
Can you pause a moment?
Absolutely.
Right. So, a couple of things. You're saying that when you met with Mark Golding on the 5th of October, he requested of you, and he said to you he would prefer if you do not resign. And Risers pressured you sometime after the 5th not to resign, as they don't want Peter Phillips to appoint a new senator. Yeah?
Well, that's the opinion that they have.
That's fine. That's fine. I just want to be clear on that.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the 5th, yeah?
Yeah.
So that the release of the 10th of October, when you promised that you would have resigned by the 6th of November, 2020.
I did not say that. I believe what my statement said, it says that I think it says at this juncture, right?
Mm-hmm. Can I read it for you?
Well, yes, because I don't have a copy in front of me, but
yes.
Let me see if I can remember it.
No, you don't need to recall. You don't need to recall. I have it here. At this juncture, swearing in on Friday, October 16, as intended, would be in great contradiction with my convictions, as I would be resigning from the Senate on November 6, 2020.
Yeah.
November 6.
Yeah.
So if you were to resign on November 6, which is the date before the internal election between Lisa Hanna and Mark Golding, Peter Phillips could not have had a chance on the 6th of November to put in any new senator, because that's the day before the last election, correct?
The new leader would have had a free hand, wouldn't they? Wouldn't the new leader, Emily?
Yes.
Yeah. And at the time that I was writing this press release, I was assured in my mind that the new leader would have been Mr. Mark Golding. So Mr. Mark Golding would have had a free hand.
No, but what gave you that assurance?
Right.
What gave you the assurance as at the 10th of October,
Emily,
that Mark Golding would have been the new leader?
We can all do the math and the political calculation. As I said to you, that I will not speak to internal party issues, but I'll share with you what was already in the public. The year before, during the Rise election versus Peter Phillips, Peter Phillips won by 76 votes, and that was in September of 2019. That's public information. By January or so of 2020, the Rise group formed 400 groups, which is also the public information, which may have given about 500 additional delegates to the math. Notwithstanding that, while persons like myself were campaigning to win a general election or to secure as much seats as possible for the PNP, others were campaigning for internal party power.
Okay. So got you on that, and I'll perhaps go through that. Just hold on a second.
So I am clear that Mr. Mark Golding would have been president.
Okay.
And thereby,
yes,
that I did not support him.
That's what I thought.
I supported Lisa Hanna.
That's what I thought.
Now, there's a difference between a wish. I would have preferred Lisa Hanna president of the People's National Party. Mm-hmm. And therefore, although I know it was one of the greatest uphill battle for her to overcome, both in terms of how the delegates were organized and in terms of the financial capacity to run an election, this kind of election, because make no doubt about it, invariable, more money is spent on internal party elections fighting for party power than what is spent fighting for state power in general elections.
Right, we'll come to that. Just hold on a second, Mr. Horne.
No.
I want to go back to something. Hold on. Let's stay with the timeline for the moment. Am I to understand?
Emily,
pardon?
Emily, can't reverse an airplane. We can turn around, but you just can't reverse it. Remember now, we've taken off.
To where?
Well, we're heading to the end of this saga, and
yes, and we're trying to understand it.
Yes.
Let me ask you this: are you insinuating that your 10th of October press release, in which you said you would resign on the 6th of November, that it was you agreeing to the request of Mark Golding made of you on the 5th?
Question, Emily.
Why not?
Definitely not answer that question.
But
what I will tell you is that I intend that the new leader will have a free hand to name his or her replacement. Okay? And as it stands now, Mr. Mark Golding's intention to name Mr. Bunting as the replacement.
So
I'd like to extend my congratulations to Mr. Bunting.
You are congratulating Mr. Bunting?
Yes.
From the same mouth you're talking to me about the risers through? Are you sure you want to use that word?
Mr. Bunting will now be the 8th senator, which also have probably provide interesting reading for the public at large.
Before you get on to the 8th Senator,
I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate Mr. Bunting.
Before you get on to that, Mr. Horne, answer me this one.
Yeah.
Having told the people of Jamaica that you would resign on the 6th of November,
Yeah.
why didn't you resign then?
Emily, you will learn two things about me. And, the 2016 election speaks to it. But I tell it as it is. I like to do that. The fact of the matter is that I had a resignation letter prepared on the 10th of October. I was just remiss in delivering to the Governor General. I should have.
Remiss?
Yes, I should have.
Remiss?
Okay.
That is the way you want to describe it?
Emily, let me just say further. And this probably needs some clarification. That I believe there is a provision in the standing order of the Senate that where persons do not participate in a certain amount of sitting in the Senate, which is one, with a certain amount of time, which is two, and you're a lawyer, you may have the information, that they automatically vacate their seat. Now, certainly, before December 3rd, I was of the opinion that my seat was vacated. Now, my understanding is that although I have not taken the oath, that a senator appointed can actually sit in the House, but not taking the oath, you will not be able to participate in the debate, which is a decision-making process, or voting.
None of what you're saying, even if they stand up to legal scrutiny, can explain why you did not send the letter to the Governor General, which you said you prepared for the 6th of November. When we come back, answer that $10 million question. Tell me when I come back. Yes, Mr. Horne. Is your real reason, or one of the reasons for not giving up that letter to the Governor General, which you said you prepared, tied to what I consider a Shylock-like quality of ensuring that the man... No, I'm not calling you. I said the quality. Remember now, we agreed that you're all African.
Yeah.
Now, I'm asking...
That you or we, Emily?
You said you were all African,
yeah.
And I'd never claimed anything else.
Okay.
Right,
so you're saying that we are all African?
Well, yes, and
I just want to be clear. Yeah.
No, we have agreed based on what you said that you are all African. So what I want to find out, Mr. Horne, am I correct that you, when you formed the opinion that Mark Golding was going to be the leader because of the groups and the delegate numbers, and this man is a deep pocket man, you are owed $19 million by the party, you decided you're not going to renounce, but you have this valuable seat that his Chief Lieutenant Peter Bunting wants. And this was your way of getting your money back from the party. And you use it as a bargaining chip, didn't you?
Oh, Emily, that is really ridiculous. Our laws and our Constitution provide tremendous amount of relief for collecting money. This is not an issue. It's definitely not a bargain chip. It definitely has nothing to do with it.
But did you raise it with Mr. Golding in WhatsApp communication?
I raised it first with Dr. Peter Phillips, and said, Dr. Peter Phillips, I want you as the new leader in 2017 to acknowledge his death, and he did. And I also raised it with Mr. Mark Golding, not for collection, but for acknowledgement of the death, as I did with Dr. Peter Phillips.
When you raised it with Mark Golding, was it in the context of him asking you about why you haven't sent your letter to the Governor General on resignation?
There are two different issues, Emily. Completely two different issues. Right? I did not pursue the party for collection. I pursued the party for an acknowledgement. And I have the acknowledgement from the General Secretary, but because he was resigning and vacating his position, I think it would be most appropriate for the same acknowledgement to come from the leader as it came from his predecessor. Right?
Yeah, but why do you think,
okay,
can I ask you, why do you think that you would need to get a separate acknowledgement from the incoming leader if you have had it from a previous leader and whose actions would bind a successive leader? Why did you think it necessary?
Emily, I understood Dr. Phillips' acknowledgement and commitment to the debt for as long as he's leader. He's no longer leader. The acknowledgement should now come from the new leader, which I pursue him for an acknowledgement.
May I ask you, if Dr. Phillips remained the leader,
yes,
would you have asked him to provide a timeline for the payment of this debt?
He has already acknowledged the debt. So, Dr. Phillips, so that's not an issue. If he remained the leader, he has already acknowledged from 2017, so that's not an issue.
Is it on the books of the People's National Party somewhere that you're owed this money when Dr. Phillips acknowledged the debt?
Yeah.
Yes, I don't understand why, if it's on the books, why do you need some acknowledgement from the new leader? If not to say to him, if you don't give me a timeline for the payment of this money, I will not be allowing you to choose Peter Bunting for this seat.
Emily, that information is incorrect, but I'd like you to know for a fact that a political party is an unincorporated entity. It's an unincorporated.
Yes.
It's not an entity like a corporation that you form, like RGR, which is a corporation.
Yes, I fully understand that.
It's an unincorporated entity. And it doesn't have a legal standing. And
yes.
And also, I believe in terms of most appropriateness for parties' liability, that the acknowledgement should be on part of the leader. That's my opinion on this matter.
But if the party is unincorporated, then any legal standing that your debt would have, you would have to take it up with the trustees of the party. So an assurance from the leader would be of no value but something to comfort somebody for whatever reasons. No?
I will guarantee you that no political party, whether here in Jamaica or abroad, would want to have their trustees involved. And if that were to be the case, then no one would stand as trustee for any political party.
But that's a position in law. Yeah. But I don't want to debate that any further. Let me ask you, Mr. Horne, as it has come to me now. Is it at all possible that in those discussions with Dr. Phillips, that you said to him, insinuated it or said it overtly, that you would be prepared to forego the debt in the party for a Senate appointment?
Oh, that's ridiculous and preposterous. And that's really nonsense. Not even worthy of a response.
Then that's your response?
Yeah, not worthy of a response.
Okay.
Emily, there are two things. One is a matter of making a contribution to a political party. And the other is a matter of making a loan to a political party. They're two separate issues completely.
When did you lend this party this 90 million?
I am not going to get into the details of the inner party, more so than what has already been in the media.
All right, let me ask you this.
It is confirmed that the party owes me this amount of resources.
Yes.
And it is not unusual for a party to seek funding for various reasons.
I understand that. Let me ask you, Mr. Horne. I have been made to understand by a source that during the lead up to this last 2020 elections, you were one of the people in the party seeking funding from various people for party affairs. And that very close to the start of the debates which are to take place on television, you personally made calls to two people in the party, Mark Golding and Peter Bunting, to request of each of them $5 million as contribution to a party that had become in dire straits financially. Is that so?
I would like you to know that I call many persons, both internally to the party and external to the party, to try and raise funds for the party to run its campaign.
Mark Golding?
I called Mr. Peter Bunt, I've called Mr. Mark Golding, I've called many others in the party.
Is it correct that when you called Mark Golding, he said to you, I will not give 1 cent, neither in loan nor as gift, to this whatever party? Is it true?
It's a paraphrase.
So what did he say?
I will have to paraphrase myself too. I don't remember all the details, but he did say that he will not give or lend money to the People's National Party. Yes, he did say that.
And Peter Bunting said what to your request for the $5 million?
Peter Bunting, I described his utterances as being quite a gentleman. He was at pain to explain that the cost of running his constituency and that he is unable, he will not be able to afford this thing at this time. And so he was quite a gentleman about it.
And the thinking is that when you made your various deductions from the 19 million you said you were owed down to 10 million, yes, is really to turn the screw in Mark Golding and Peter Bunting because of those responses to the request of 5 million each.
You probably want to add that up and make some juxtapose and form some opinion and create some political event out of it and create news. But the answer to that question is no. That has nothing to do with it. What it has to do with is my commitment to the party. That's what it has to do with. That I keep my commitment to the party. What it has to do with, as has been made public, is treating with groups that I've promised to pay for. In keeping with promises that I've made to the party, both at conferences, etc. And I don't want it to appear as if that I've given a commitment to the party and then reversed myself. The answer is no to that.
Right.
Okay.
There are a couple of questions.
Letter to Juliet that was made public, which I find rather disheartening, because my financial affairs with the People's National Party should never have been made public. In fact, my financial affairs with any political party should never have been made public.
Let me get 5 minutes with you after the break, because I'm up on the headlines. There are a couple more questions I have to go through with you. Norman Horne. We're back with Norman Horne, wrapping up our interview with him on this very crucial matter of the Senate seat and matters attending. Mr. Horne, thank you for staying with us.
You're welcome, Emily.
Would you consider that your conduct over the last couple of weeks, coming from the 10th of October and now, you have demonstrated a lot of strands of dishonorable conduct, in that you accepted a position knowing that you required time to make yourself qualified to take up the position, and then you misled the people into believing that you were eligible to sit, but you wouldn't take up the position on a point of principle. Do you think those strands were dishonorable?
Emily, I totally disagree with you on that point. And I want you to understand that there was nothing dishonorable about how my conduct and the outcome of it, as I mentioned to you before about an aircraft taking off, leveling off and landing. But I want to go back to an issue that you raised where we left off just before the break. Just before the break, we referred to the matter of $10 million, and you make some alignment with it. Let's be clear, Emily, that I have been making political contributions to political parties, not only the PNP, but to political parties, not only today or yesterday, but from almost since return to Jamaica to do business. The Peter Phillips administration during his time has received less contribution from me than what was contributed before. And even in this last election, it's a fact that I not only contributed to the People's National Party, but I also contributed in the Jamaica Labour Party. To try to twin the contributions that I have made to political parties and to say that's what prompted Peter Phillips to appoint me is wrong. Peter Phillips, in my view, is a very honorable man. I've invested a lifetime in defending, protecting Jamaica and working hard. Most notable was when Jamaica was on the brink of bankruptcy, that he brought the country back to good financial health.
May I ask you?
I think,
No, may I ask you? I don't want... No, hold on. Because of time, I'm so sorry.
I need to finish this point, though.
Please go ahead quickly.
It's important that, in my opinion, over this almost 6 years of independence, you will not be able to find more than 10 persons who have contributed more to the success and development of Jamaica and its economy than Dr. Peter Phillips.
Perhaps we should investigate. Perhaps we should investigate when you make the contributions. What was the quid pro quo in
There
making?
were no quid pro quo. Contributions made to either political party had no quid pro quo. And I want you to know that at no time have I ever benefited from any taxpayers' resources.
Okay.
I've never had to roll it off. I've never had to have a government contract. Okay?
Yes.
I have never benefited. And I tell you today that I would not want to benefit.
Let me ask you, Mr. Horne.
More often ever. I've never earned a bad dollar, and I don't intend to earn one now.
Back on the strand of the perceived dishonorable conduct, you gave the impression, certainly earlier this week, that you would be reconsidering whether to resign from the Senate. Did you?
Emily, we're going back and forth on the same
And
issue.
I tell you why I ask you.
Today,
I tell you why I ask you that. I tell you why I ask you that. Because when you made that statement again earlier on this week, you knew that a month ago you had formed the conclusive position that you would not be renounced. So why would you be telling us that you would be reconsidering whether you resign or not? Why?
Emily, there's a point that you're missing. And, I want to clarify this point for you. Any senator that sits now in the upper house, with certain conduct, your seat can be vacated. And I believe one of those is not having seated in the parliament for a number of seatings or within a certain specified day. And I must be quite frank with you that I was of the opinion that my seat was vacated. I said that to you.
Mr.
And
Horne.
therefore, I don't have any standing in the Senate.
Well,
When it was brought, Emily, when it was brought to me last week, I had to think hard, is my seat vacated or do I really need to resign? I have discovered that I need to resign, and I have done so this morning.
but there were matters precedent. Matters existed before that. Matters existed before that you should have communicated. But I want to ask you something before I run out of time. You mentioned in this interview your apology to Jamaicans. And I have looked back at your statement,
Yes.
and I have missed the use of the word apology.
Well, I said clearly in my statement that I was remiss in not sending the resignation letter to the Governor General.
That's the apology?
That's my apology.
Remiss? Do you know what the word remiss means?
Come on, Emily.
It's not an apology. That's what I'm saying, Mr. Horne. Remiss means you have been lacking in care or attention to your duty. But it is not an apology. Now, would you like to apologize to the people of Jamaica?
If I'd like to apologize to the people of Jamaica, Emily,
Yes.
is that the question before me?
It is.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me say, Emily, that I remain steadfast to be committed the democratic principles and tenets of good governance. I want you to know that.
It starts with an apology, Mr. Horne.
I am apologizing, Emily.
Okay.
And that are essential to national development. And therefore, I will sincerely apologize to the Jamaican people if there were any anxiety or uncertainty that my contemplation may have caused during this week, rather, because just 1 week.
It's not only anxiety. Can I just say, no, let me say as a Jamaican, I beg your pardon, Mr. Norman Horne, as a Jamaican, what you didn't cause me was, you didn't cause me anxiety. What I felt was a great sense of deception. Would you apologize for that?
I apologize for any anxiety or any uncertainty. And I've made clear. But Emily, I want you to know that I'm in my car with this call. And
two questions before you go.
Very close to the end.
You should buy a tropical battery. Hold on. Two questions before you go, Mr. Horne. Thank you so much for indulging me. What of the 10 million now?
The party is indebted to me for $10 million. It is not the first time or the last time that the party or political party would have outstanding arrangements with me. But as I said to you, that my greatest disappointment, and it hurts, it literally hurts, that my financial affairs with the party has been made public. It's a private matter.
Well,
it should never, ever have been brought.
You're not the only person who is hurt in this. What's your future inside the party now? What of your future? I said yesterday that you should be expelled from the party. Should you not?
My father, when I said to my father back in 2002, that I am contemplating joining the Jamaica Labour Party, my father said to me, son, I wish you luck, but I want you to know this, that there are two things I don't change. One, I'm a Seventh-day Adventist, and my religion I'll not change. And two, I'm a member of the People's National Party, and my party I will not change.
And three, you're a United States citizen, and that will not change.
Thank you, Emily. You like to finish for me. Thank you very much. Thank you, and I wish you a very good day.
Thank you, Mr. Horne.
You're most welcome.